Stop! You violated the law.
It's the full preview podcast. UFC 284.
What's up, everyone? It's your boy Feño from the Fight Side, and we're here to do the full preview for UFC 284. This is happening in Australia this weekend, and it features a huge fight between current featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski moving up to lightweight to challenge for the undisputed title against Islam Makhachev. A very big fight, one of the best that you can make in the sport right now. And the rest of the card, it has its ups and downs, but we'll see about that. The card also features an interim featherweight title to a challenge against Volkanovski in the next fight between Jair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett, and we'll be talking about that one too. So yeah, let's begin. So as usual, we're talking topology from bottom to top. So we're starting with the very first prelim. Its featherweight division is Subara Tukhugov versus Elvis Brenner, the newcomer here. So Brenner, who's Brenner? Brenner comes from Shooterbox Diego Lima, the Oliveira camp, the Brazilians guys with blonde hair camp. So he's a wrestle boxer. He has decent power in his hands. I say he's a lot better moving forwards than he's like on the back foot. He also is like not very good in the pocket because he doesn't really have a process there. He's either like using high guard, backing up, or just trying to counter, but not a lot in the way of like pocket boxing there. He does interesting use of shifting combos when going on the lead. That gives him good entries for his takedowns against the cage. He's pretty decent at finishing the double leg against the cage. When he gets on top, he has heavy top pressure. He's content to sit in guard, winning minutes. Like he can win rounds from top position. If he gets taken down, he has very aggressive butterfly hooks, and he's scrambly, so not easy to hold him down as it is usual by people from his camp. He has very good passes from half guard to side control to mount from top position, the classic like BJJ flow shirt. But he also attacks the legs like from top and from bottom very often. But his best trait is getting to the back and finishing the rear naked choke. That's like his finishing move of choice. And on the other hand, we have Subara Tukhugov, the Chechen. He's pretty awkward on the feet, but he's very sharp, very good jab. Tends to be low volume at times. That one of his like biggest flaws is that he can get into very slow fights that makes the rounds super dicey. But the shot selection is pretty good. He's also very good with the left hook, so you always gotta watch out for that left hand. The jab and the left hook are pretty dangerous. He's very good at managing distance. Pretty hard to hit with naked kicks and stuff like that. And he has some flexibility to his game. He can sit back and move forwards. He's pretty effective doing both. He's a strong wrestler, especially from the body lock. Like very good takedowns. He can neutralize people there. He's all about trips, like a lot of guys from the area. Inside and outside trips from body lock and also over-unders. I would say Brenner is a solid fighter. And the camp certainly comes with momentum, like a lot of Shooterbox Diego Lima fighters getting into the UFC. But I think Suba is a rough matchup for him. There's a pretty big gap in striking depth, especially I'd say. Pretty hard to take down Tukhugov, and that's like where Brenner has his best shot here. So yeah, I mean, I'm picking Tukhugov by decision on this one. And we're moving to our next fight. And we stay at featherweight. We have Blake Builder against Shane Young. So who is Builder? Well, Builder is a Contender Series guy. He's athletic, has big power, Moves on the outside and likes to close distance with big movements. When he gets opponents against the cage, is like when he starts unloading combinations, and he's pretty good at it. I like how he puts his hands together there. Carries power, as I said. He's an opportunistic wrestler and grappler. Has a very decent reactive double leg takedown. He's mostly a back take specialist on the ground. Like, he's the kind of guy that looks to take the back during scrambles, during the clinch, in every position, and he can burn a lot of time staying in the back. Very solid figure four to maintain the back take. Not a lot in the way of defense on the feet. He moves his head on the outside, but once he starts getting into combinations, the head stays right in the center line. I've heard, I think it's Conor Rivers or Jack Clark that calls that like Rashad Evans syndrome, when you move your head on the outside but not during exchanges. And the other problem is that he squares his feet when he's getting into combinations, so watch out for counters when it comes to that. On the other hand, we have Shane Young. He mostly fights with steady pressure behind like a floaty jab. Like, he keeps his left hand like away from his body to make his jab like harder to read and quicker. And he also has like very solid leg kicks. He's good at moving sideways. He puts combinations together always in the counter and the lead. That's very good. He has pretty decent first layer of head movement. If you try to hit him, he's going to slip a single shot. But also when combinations start flying, the head can stay in the middle and he can be vulnerable at that. I'm going to mention that flaw about many fighters because it's very prevalent in MMA, but it's worth noting every single time. So Shane Young is composed, he's conditioned, and I like that he seems to look to find answers to the defensive reactions of his opponents, but at the same time he can get a little bit predictable with his entries, so he can be set up as well. So Young comes into this fight off a layout and 2 losses. Builder comes with all the momentum here. He's undefeated, by the way. He has a 1 draw on his record, but otherwise he's 7-0. Builder is dynamic enough that he can probably find a big punch or a back take to win the fight early. He seems to keep composure and power late too, so that might be problems for Young, but I think I trust the process of Young more to expose the lack of depth in Builder striking, especially. Not a fight to bet on, but I'm taking the risk picking Young here to win a decision. And we're moving on to strawweight, when we have the Thai Loma Lukbumi against the American Ulysse Reed. So Lukbumi, she's undersized. She comes for a traditional Muay Thai background. She's very decorated in Thailand, fighting Muay Thai. She's a lightning fast counter kicker. Like, you throw a leg kick, you're gonna get one that's quicker and harder back. She's pretty good at catching kicks and landing in naked kicks in open space because she has a very good opening for rhythm, for timing. So she's very good at timing your bounces, your steps. And that's how she scores in open space. She has pretty good pop in her punches. She's not much of a boxer. She can be surprised with punches from the outside. And the other thing about Loma is that she has very good transitions to clinches. She can find clinches in a lot of exchanges, and there she can land very hard elbows and knees from a variety of grips. It's not all about the collar ties for her. She knows how to work from over and unders, from elbow frames, from wrist control. So she's the whole deal, as you would expect from a Muay Thai fighter. And she's also getting better at using the cage in those positions, like using head pressure when she has her opponents against the cage. So that's pretty good. She also has a variety of trips and foot sweeps from the clinch. She's actually very good, and that was mostly the way that she used to score in Muay Thai was with trips and foot sweeps. And now in MMA, she will follow people to the ground. But she has pretty decent posture. The ground pound is very solid, especially with the elbows. And you can tell that she's using the same principles that she uses to land elbows in the clinch. She used those same in close guard or in half guard. As I said, she can be surprised with big punches from the outside and can freeze a bit during combinations. So watch out for that. She can lose position during scrambles. You can tell that she's still a bit raw when it comes to grappling. Hopefully she's still making big improvements from fight to fight. But she stays pretty calm and composed. We've seen her like with her back being taken, and she just stays relaxed, tries to do the right things technically, so that's good. And on the other hand, we have Elise Reed. She comes with a taekwondo background, I think. She has pretty fast combinations with the hands. Tries to time counters and returns with volume. That's always good to see. She doesn't move her head at all when punching, like there for the taking. She's strong physically, but she stands a little bit too tall and can be taken down because of that. And the other thing is that she can like lose a lot of minutes in the clinch. She's not bad in the clinch, but she gets stuck in those positions very often. Reed is physical. She's larger than Loma. She likes to bully people, so those are good attributes to have against Lukbumi. But I think she has two big flaws that are against her. One, she's kickable. I mean, she's pretty decent herself, but kick defense not very good. We've seen her like eat like body kicks and leg kicks a lot during fights. And Lukbumi, on the other hand, super powerful kicker and better at defending kicks. And the other thing, as I said, is that she gets stuck in the clinch pretty often. And Loma is going to be dangerous there. Loma still gotta be careful at range because Reed has pretty decent pop in her punches. And even though Loma is better in the clinch, you always gotta be careful with bigger fighters, not end up on bottom position because Reed can push pace and put ground pound together. So yeah, I mean, Loma has to mind her P's and Q's here, especially during scrambles. But other than that, I think Loma is a better fighter. Picking Lukbumi by decision on this one. And we go back to featherweight. And we have the Australian Jack Jenkins versus Don Chaney's. So Jenkins likes to walk behind feints and like big single shots until he gets the opponent covering up. And when the opponent covers up is where he puts like his best work, because he puts very good boxing combinations together. He attacks all three levels: head, body, legs. His favorite punch, you can tell, is the left hook to the body. He's very good with it and very dangerous with calf kicks in open space too. He switches to southpaw to add variety and has decent fundamentals there. He can jab, he can hand fight, and the footwork is pretty clean from footwork. He's also one of those fighters that is a lot better moving forwards. The back foot, he knows how to use the jab defensively to freeze opponents and move around, but if you put the combinations together, he tends to retreat in straight lines. The takedown defense is pretty solid, and he has good reactive takedowns. His level change is super quick. And he's solid from top position, steady ground pound, good passes, and one of those guys that when he gets to mount knows how to maintain mount and keep going at it with ground pound. And on the other hand, we have Don Chaney's. He's a wild athlete. He has a wrestling background. He's a wrestler boxer. I would say that he gets too wild and aggressive for his own good on the feet. He can be open to counters, especially when throwing hooks. Not a lot of defense there, but he's fast. He packs big power. One of the best things about him is he's very good at transition to the legs in between boxing combinations, and he's a very good wrestler. He's pretty versatile as a wrestler and as a grappler. He can wrestle from the clinch. Very good at shooting an open space, singles, doubles. When it comes to grappling on the ground, when it comes to the traditional positions of BJJ, he has good passes. You can tell he's pretty well schooled, but also in wrestling positions like rights and such, he's also very solid, and he can land big ground pounds from those positions. And also when he gets taken down, he's very aggressive with butterfly hooks. Almost impossible to get him and his back. Chaney's, I would say, has pretty decent cardio, but the pace of his fights can get out of his hand, and that's where he tires. I think Jenkins has the process edge here. Not only he's by far the more measured fighter on the feet, but also he's more technical and thoughtful with his striking. I think he would have problems with Chaney's speed and the recklessness, Especially because, as I said, Jenkins like retreats on straight lines, and Chain is like big power. He's going to make him back up here and there. So he gotta be careful with the big punches and the takedowns. We haven't seen Jack Jenkins face this level of wrestling opposition, so that should be interesting to see. But Jenkins looks like very well schooled. He looks a decent athlete, maybe not as good as Shane is, but comparable at least. So I'm picking Jenkins to win a decision on this one. Are we moving to lightweight? And we have Jamie Mullarkey. He's the local on this one. He's fighting the Argentinian Francisco Prado, making his debut. So Mullarkey, long and awkward, works at a very long range. He's a long guy. Not only he's tall, but like long arms. He looks like for straight punches and leg kicks. He likes a lot to step into big leg kicks. If you start like reacting to his feints, and he can be very damaging with that. He also likes to move his head a lot on the outside, looking to weave his way into range. And then he looks to put combinations together. He's actually pretty good at putting combinations together. And he's very aggressive in the clinch. I think that's something that he maybe should pursue more. Very good at landing like big elbows and knees. Not very mindful of positioners. He's all about damage and very active there. He makes good use of his levers to find like big strikes. And he also can transition into dirty boxing from the clinch, so he's pretty versatile there. The flaws with Mullarkey is that he can be hit after punching. I mean, he punches very long, and that means that he has to retreat his arms from a longer distance. He can be open for counters there. And in the pocket, also another one of those fighters that moves his head a lot, especially when he has the initiative, but when he's reacting in the pocket, can stay in the center line looking for punches, and he can be surprised there. And on the other hand, we have Prado. He's all about big movements, mostly pressures, and either explodes with a rear side attack, be it the overhand, right kick, flying knee, or he waits for the opponent to lead and tries to counter either with a cross counter with the right hand or a check hook. He's decent at corralling people with his feet, but doesn't move opponents with his attacks. What I mean with that is that he follows opponents near the walls of the cage well, using side steps, but he doesn't attack space. So that means that he's not very good at keeping people where he wants to. He's very physically strong, explosive. That makes him dangerous in the clinch, especially with knees, so you gotta be careful of that. But he's always open like for counters and takedowns because his form is not very good. He's too wild. He doesn't have a jab too. He's a huge stepping competition for Prado. Mullarkey has like a modern process and well put MMA game that I don't think Prado has faced before in his MMA career. It's a lot of single shots from what I've seen for him and for his opponent. Prado should be a live dog because he's a huge hitter, and Mullarkey we've seen being hit before. But Mullarkey has pretty good chin, but you never know. But other than that, it looks a bit of a mismatch for me. I'm picking Mullarkey by second round knockout for this one. And we going down to flyweight is Clayson Rodriguez versus Shannon Ross. So first we talk about the Brazilian Rodriguez. He's pretty big for the weight class, very athletic. He pressures behind a long bladed stance, a bit of a karate flavor going on there. A lot of kicks, quick and active with the leg left, powerful with the rear one. He loves the left hook, the check hook, and also leading with the left hook. And the overhand too, especially as counters. He likes to fight like all the way in, all the way out, and he uses that bladed stance to his advantage there. He can be open for counters, especially when close in distance. And he likes to fight in spots. He doesn't like pressure very much, but he has good cardio though. He's a decent scrambler with a solid BJJ base, and he's pretty strong in the clinch. But sometimes gets a bit too wild with his strikes, and he can be taken down from those positions. As I said, he has pretty decent cardio. I've seen him tired in fights, especially the CJ Vergara fight, but that was insane pace, and he seemed to carry his power very late into the fight. On the other hand, we have Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross lost his Contender Series fight, so he's making his UFC debut off a knockout. I still think he's a pretty good fighter. I would describe him as a scrappy veteran. He put quick combinations together with his hands, especially in the counter, and can kick well in open space. He's tough, has good cardio, can dig deep. He has been in a lot of wars. He's 19 fights into his career going into this fight. He can be hit in the pocket. That's another one of those guys that seems to have the head movement like nailed down, and then it disappears when he gets into the pocket. It happens so often in MMA, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself too much. And yeah, he can also be like surprised with same time counters, especially if Rodriguez tries to like nail him with the left hook or try to time a cross counter with the right hand. That's something to look for. I think Ross presents a similar challenge to Rodriguez than his previous opponent CJ Vergara did. Ross, I would say, probably has better hands and presents more like immediate danger because he has like bigger power. But he lacks two key points, and one is the non-stop pressure. He's a lot more akin to fight in neutral space than Vergara. And the other thing is that he doesn't have the durability that CJ Vergara is almost immortal. So yeah, I think he's lacking those things, and without those, I think this is Clayson's fight to win. Clayson looks very good. He's raw, but he has the power, he has the conditioning, he has the skills. This one should be a very good fight, but I'm picking Clayson Rodriguez by knockout on the second round. And we're back to featherweight. And this time it's Joshua Culibao versus Melsik Baghdasaryan. So we have the Australian, Culibao. He's a pretty awkward striker. I would say he has a pretty good sense of rhythm and timing. That's what makes him pretty good on the feet. He feints from both stances. A little bit of a TJ Dillashaw cosplay going on at times, I would say there. Remember when that was like a subgenre of fighters, like just guys doing the TJ Dillashaw? Okay, but back on track. He's always like feinting from both stances, looking for reactions to make entries. He fights very loose and relaxed, and that allows him to be very quick and conserve energy. His cardio is very good because he doesn't fight tense, but at the same time that can leave him open for counters, especially because he has pretty awkward form with his punching, a lot of flaily elbows going on there. But he has surprisingly good pop in his hands despite that. He does a lot of shifting to close the distance, and he could be countered during those instances and after clinch breaks as well, so watch out for that. On the other hand, we have Melsik Baghdasaryan, the Armenian. He fights from a bladed stance. He's a southpaw kickboxer with probably a karate background going on there. He stays pretty tight, I would say. I would describe like he's very contrary to Culibao that has like flaily elbows. Like Baghdasaryan keeps like a high guard and keeps the elbows very tight when punching. And he's very good at attacking with knees and kicks to the legs and to the body. Especially very, very powerful kicks from the left side. He can jab, but mostly likes to hand fight to set up the double attack. He's very dangerous with that, so watch out for that. This is an interesting matchup and should be fun. Because on one hand you have the loose and orthodox Culibao, and then you have the more like traditionally cool, tight and explosive Baghdasaryan. Culibao can probably frustrate Melsik moving on the outside and playing with rhythm, feinting from both stances. And Baghdasaryan needs to take the initiative on this one, smother any potential counters with his clinch entries. He's pretty good at finding clinch entries and then attacking with knees and elbows from there, especially when that's what he does, like to control what exchanges happen and which doesn't. Culibao goes into this fight as a more experienced guy in MMA. I mean, Baghdasaryan has pro boxing, a pro kickboxing experience, and Culibao has faced like more guys in MMA at a higher level, and this is, I would say, a tricky matchup for both guys, and in those cases I usually tend to side with the more experienced guy. But I think Baghdasaryan has enough nuance to his game and a decent process to not fall for the MMA tricks of Kulibao. This should be a good one, but I'm taking the risk picking Baghdasaryan by decision on this one. And we go all the way up to light heavyweight for the next two. We have Tyson Pedro, third fight after his comeback. He's fighting Modestas Bukauskas, that is making his way back to the UFC after being caught after that gruesome injury that he suffered against Khalil Roundtree. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, Pedro, he's long, he's big, he's athletic. He likes to fight behind like his long weapons, strong leg kicks, a snap kick to the body. That one is very good. Straight punches. He's all about distance management, and he does that pretty well. Not much of a boxer. I mean, he can punch pretty hard, but he's not like a guy that will stay in the pocket, like sleeping shots, coming up with counters. As I said, he's all about like distance management. He moves in, he moves out. He used the long range tools to keep the opponents at bay. Not a lot of defense other than that. And he's a pretty strong grappler. Has a few takedowns in the clinch. A few like judo throws and body lock takedowns. And when he gets to top position, pretty decent posture, like very functional grappler. And the ground pound is very big too. It's very big, so watch out for that. On the other hand, we have Modestas Bukauskas. He's a kickboxer that likes to move on the outside. He's pretty much an outfighter. Like he circles around, trying to move his opponent into big shots and break tempo with the jab too when they try to go in. He's very powerful from the rear side. The right hand and the right kick are very, very dangerous. He also has spinning kicks to add to his arsenal, so he's a dangerous guy. He's pretty comfortable, like circling around the cage, but if you put like long combinations together, he can be overwhelmed. And you can tell that he's fine, like using the outside footwork when it comes to like big motions. But if you trap him in the pocket, he doesn't have like tight pivots or that kind of stuff to escape those positions. I would say Bukauskas has probably more depth to his striking and has a better process. But what Pedro brings is like he's very athletic. He fights with a lot of confidence, and he's very like, you can tell he has a cold mind inside the cage. But while Bukauskas, on the other hand, is a bit more shaky, like his confidence depends a lot on the success that he's having in the fight. This being at like parity could trouble Pedro because he likes the long range tools and takes advantage of that. But on this fight, like Bukauskas can match him in that department, especially with the long kicks. So yeah, I mean, Bukauskas has a very good shot in this one, especially if landing a big kick. Both guys are big. Tyson Pedro probably have physicality edge, but yeah, don't count Bukauskas out. I think the big difference maker in this one is the poise that Pedro comes into fight with. I get a feeling that he intimidates people sometimes, and Bukauskas can maybe like fall for that. And other than that, if they go to the ground, I gotta trust Pedro more. The ground pound is very dangerous. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty even fight. I think it's Tyson Pedro by knockout on the first round, but that could go either way. And as I said, we stay at light heavyweight. Jimmy Crute versus Alonso Meningfield. Yeah. So Crute making his comeback after 2 consecutive losses. The last one was more than a year ago to current light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill. And also Meningfield, on the other hand, coming with the momentum of 2 first round stoppages. So yeah, Crute, I would say he's a pretty like meat and potatoes, well-rounded fighter. When I say meat and potatoes, it's not that he's bad. It's just that he has like a minimalist tool set, and he makes like decent use of that. The leg kicks at range are very big, especially like calf kicks. He can jab pretty well. Has a big left hook, and the overhand and straight right. Especially find those big punches at the counter. Decently strong wrestler, like technically not flawless, but he's very strong. Has a quick level change, can finish from a variety of positions, And the thing that mostly trouble Crute are jabs and same time counters. When he has the initiative and the opponent is not like reactive with any kind of nuisance, he like runs away with fights. He's a very well put together fighter. And Manyfield, on the other hand, extremely powerful, like absurd, like he's as powerful as he looks. He fights from a super low stance, and he's mostly working off the threat of his huge right hand. He's like feinting this like big right hand of the level change. He can set up like takedowns from there. His technique on the wrestling is not very good, but he's very strong. So he clutches his hands together behind your butt. You're going out for a ride. The other thing with Manyfield is that he has no problem like eating huge chunks of the fight in the clinch. He's very powerful and dangerous. He can get big knockouts, but he's also not scared to fight boring if he feels like he needs to. The thing with Manyfield is that he doesn't have a lot of depth in any certain area. Crute is hittable, and Manyfield is a huge hitter, so do the math. Obviously, Alonso has a decent shot of getting the first round knockout in this one. But on the other hand, like Crute also pretty big puncher, not a bad athlete himself, and has the better process. Another one of those fighters not good to bet on. But yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, obviously I gotta go with Crute. I think he's the better fighter of the two. Maybe him coming off 2 losses is going to affect him. I think, quite the contrary, I think he's going to look pretty good here. Manyfield has a lot of potential physically, but he's getting up in age. And I doubt he's getting a lot better, like MMA-wise, at this stage. Maybe like the mindset's getting better, but the skills are still lacking a bit. I'm picking Jimmy Crute by knockout on the second round on this one. And we go to even bigger boys because he's heavyweight. And we have Justin Tafa against Parker Porter on this one. So Tafa, southpaw kickboxer, stands mostly flat-footed, but he's like deceptively agile. He can move pretty well in the ground and on the feet. Like he's a quick, athletic guy, despite what his looks might tell him, and on the way he stands because he stands pretty flat-footed. He has huge power, both the left hand and the left kick. He's pretty good at finding head kicks, and also can counter with the right hook. So keep an eye on that. I think Tafa makes good reads, but can become predictable during long fights. What I've seen from grappling from Tafa, he looks surprisingly decent. As I said, he's agile. He can scramble a little bit. He seems to know what to do to get up back to his feet. So he's not one of those guys that get taken down and the fight is over. He's not one of those. On the other hand, we have Porter. He's like a plodding, well-rounded fighter. He fights at a very constant pace, mixes up clinches and takedowns. He's like well-rounded guy that fights like a well-rounded guy. He likes to wear people down during the length of the fight. He's a functional striker that can make reads as the fight goes on. He's not a very good wrestler, but he's a pretty decent grappler actually. I don't know if he's a black belt, but he looks pretty good on the ground, to be honest. I've seen him in the ground, and he also is one of those guys that do not accept like bottom position. He will work to get back to his feet, and seems to have like a pretty well-schooled jiu-jitsu. And Porter, the thing is that has surprisingly good cardio. Like he gets tired, like all big guys do, but he can fight tired, and he sets a pace that he can maintain, and that's how he wins fights if he doesn't fight like an early knockout. Tafa is quicker and more dangerous than Porter. And I think he should win striking exchanges immediately off the bat because Tafa is a pretty sharp starter. The longer the fight goes, the more opportunities Porter will have to figure out, like which strikes work, how to wrestle, or if he has to stall in the clinch, that kind of stuff. But I think the barrier for making that to happen is pretty high because, as I say, Tafa is sharp out of the gate. Overall, the better striker. Unless Porter makes his theory and takes Tafa into deep waters, I think Tafa wins this. Taking a risk with Tafa, first round knockout on this one. And we are at welterweight. And it's Rude Boy Randy Brown. He takes on the hometown guy, Jack Della Maddalena. Very good fight, this one. So Brown, he's very long. I think he's built as 6'2", probably true. He switches stances, looks to throw very long jabs from both stances. He likes to double and triple with the jab, move his feet, try to angling you for the rear hand. He's tricky to hit to the head because he maintains a very long distance, draws counter with the jab, and then he likes to make these very exaggerated dips to the inside from the stance he is, and then he pulls back when he sees the next counter. So he goes to that sequence a lot, but still very tricky because the distance is so big, and he's manipulating you with the jab. But as I said, that sequence he does a lot, and he can be timed doing that. Brown is also good at catching clinches to smaller fighters when they get past his lead hand, and he's pretty decent at using his long levers to find knees from collar ties, and also likes to find elbows during clinch breaks. He's not a very strong offensive wrestler, but once it gets into the ground, he's a very tricky grappler. He knows how to use his length to put barriers, to post, to get up, to sweep. And he's pretty decent at finding submissions, especially the front headlock. He has the towers, the anacondas, the guillotines, and all that kind of stuff, and also decent at taking the back. And hard to peel off with those very long legs when he puts on a triangle. And on the other hand, we have Jack Della Maddalena. He's a brutal combination puncher. He switches stances a lot, but he's primarily a southpaw. But from time to time, he likes to mirror his opponent's stance. So interesting to see against Brown that switches a lot. He has clubbing power. He's damaging to the body with hooks from both sides. But he also is pretty good at countering moving back, especially taking hot steps to take an angle and put the straight shot there. So he has some versatility to his game. He's a good scrambler, but he has been surprised with takedowns moving forwards. He has a very strong in the clinch, though. Not sure if he has a judo background or something, but he's strong there. On the ground, he can be a little bit too urgent for his own good to get back to his feet, and that has led him to get into precarious positions before. He stays very composed defending submission attempts. We've seen him in insanely close submission attempts and get out. The thing with Della is that he's very sharp out of the gate, fights at a very high pace, and can sustain that for 3 rounds, so that's a very tough outing for anyone. Brown is a very interesting puzzle for Della. He will have a sizable reach advantage, fights long and very annoying. That could prove troublesome because Della does more of his damage with his hands and from up close, so interesting to see how he closes the distance there. But nonetheless, we've seen Brown big movements both with his head and with his feet be timed by big punchers before. Chaos Williams hurt him twice in their fight. He's not a very nuanced puncher. Vicente Luque eventually figured out the head movement and knocked him out too. Della will probably have some trouble early getting to Brown, and he needs to be careful to not end up in the front headlock. I mean, I know I said Della is very good at defending submissions, but you don't want to play with fate too much. And Brown is good at wrapping those up. But I think the dexterity from Jack Della Maddalena and the boxing language, the versatility with his hands, is what will eventually allow him to figure out Brown head movement and footwork and punish him with the big blows. Also, he attacks the body a lot, so that always helps. I'm picking Jack Della by knockout on the second round on this one. And with that, we move to the co-main event, and it's an interim fight for the featherweight championship. We have El Pantera Jair Rodriguez versus Josh Emmett. So Rodriguez, lightning quick switch kickboxer. He likes to move on the outside, score with a great variety of kicks. very dexterous with both legs. And he has a well put together like meat and potatoes boxing with the 1-2, the sweeping left hook. He's very sharp out of the gate. As I said, he likes to look for the 1-2, has pretty good eye for it, and usually tries to end combos with his sweeping left hook. It's pretty wide, but he's super quick with it. Has good ability to pop kicks moving backwards too, and move his head after combinations when leading. He mostly likes to wave after the rear hand. One problem for Jair is that he's not good at adjusting his feet in the pocket. He can get out position, and he can flee exchanges like turning his back. That could be very dangerous. And the same when he's moved his head, he doesn't seem to have a good connection between head movement and footwork. So he likes to make like these very big like slips and dips, and then his feet are all messed up, crossed, and he needs to like literally run away from his opponent. He has good trigger for counters, but when he's countering another one of those guys that doesn't move his head, despite moving his head in any other context, he's an athletic scrambler, but I would say he relies too much on his length to make movements happen. He can be stuck if you attack like his teams don't allow him to post and put him like flat on his back. We saw that against Frankie Edgar, who despite the very severe like length disparity was able to attack like Jair's posts and just take him to the ground, keep him there. And on the other hand, we have Josh Emmett, wrestling background. He's very explosive, powerful. He's a stocky wrestler boxer. Likes to mostly operate at neutral space. He's usually like feigning and looking for either like counter opportunities or openings to explode with shifting combinations. He's pretty clever with his entries. Does a lot of like pump a double jab, shift, going with what now is the rear hand, so 3 hands from the same side and ends with the other one. He has like a lot of setups, a little bit of DJ Dillashaw and Chad Mendes going on there. I don't know if Emmett ever trained with Dwayne Ludwig when he was there in Team Alpha Male. That was a long time ago, but maybe he learned a few tricks there. Emmett has good defense at open space. Both with the head movement and the footwork, but he can have trouble getting stuck at long range, especially with jabs and kicks. The thing with him is that he doesn't really have good transitions to his offensive wrestling, but he's very explosive with the double leg takedown, so he can surprise just with timing with that, and he's solid with the top position with good control. He especially likes to control wrist to land ground and pound, elbows from the close guard, and generates a lot of power during transition, especially if he gets you like from a ride. He can just put his whole body into punches and put big damage from there. This is a very tricky matchup for Emmett, I'm going to say. Rodriguez has the length, straight punches, and the kicks. It will make the distance perilous to traverse for Josh. Some of Emmett's setups could work and catch Jair, but Jair has proven to be like incredibly tough. But I mean, you never know. Like with Emmett, sometimes it only takes one of the biggest puncher in the whole division. The wrestling could be the wild card, but Emmett hasn't shown the ability to take down this level of fighter. Jair, despite his flaws, defending takedowns, has shown decent at staying alive and eventually creating scrambles. Bar his Frankie Edgar fight, as I said. Rodriguez might not have the nuances in the 1-2 that someone like Calvin Kattar might have, but he's still like sharp with it, long with it, and he has a wide array of kicks to make him think on the outside. And he's very good at keeping pace with fighters, even on the back foot, for whole 5 rounds. So there's that too. Other than an early KO, there are still paths for Emmett to win, especially since Jair presents a lot of like market defense patterns that could be figured out as the fight goes on. But I think the matchup favors Rodriguez way too much for my liking for an Emmett pick here. I think El Pantera takes the interim title, winning a decision on this one. So Rodriguez by decision is the final pick. And with that, we're into the main event, the big one. the best fight by far, the most important. Islam Makhachev defends his lightweight title against featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski in what the UFC has described as pound for pound number 1 versus number 2. I think that's fair. I might not exactly agree, but won't complain about that. This is a very, very good fight. So let's get into it. So we have Makhachev. He's a ranky southpaw. Looks to fire the straight left of the left kick of the lead hand fight. That's like most of this stuff. When he's on the back foot, he usually looks to angle when he sees an entry and immediately counters with the 2-3. He's very well schooled to do that. He stays disciplined most of the time, but his form can fall apart when he's forced to cover distance. We've seen that in the past. And in the pocket, you can tell like he's well schooled to throw the 2-3 in the pocket and sometimes move his head, but you can tell he's not very comfortable there. Still, you gotta respect because he has power and you can tell has good triggers to throw his default combination. The interesting is wrestling. He has a variety of entries to the clinch. He can change levels to the waist to find like a body lock. If he can also like grab collar ties with the lead hook. He has takedowns from the full body lock and the over-under, both from the overhook and the underhook side, so he's very versatile there. We've seen a lot of like wizard kicking from there, but he also like has trips both inside and outside from both sides, so it's very tricky to deal there. And he also has a very quick level change into the single leg. He usually like elevates the leg and finishes the single leg with trips. Not much around the pipe kind of guy. From top, he's incredibly heavy from top position. He can hold people down on guard or half guard, but he also has like good passes to get to his most dangerous positions. His weapon of choice is the arm triangle that he locks the triangle from half guard, passes to mount, and there to side control. That's like he's usually like finishing touch to a fight, but he has also shown the ability to go for armbars and kimuras, especially from side control. He has those setups, so watch out for that. And he's a pretty good scrambler when presented with resistance. The thing with Makhachev is that he rarely accepts bottom position. He's always posting and turtling to fight his way back to his feet. Has not been punished with back takes at the moment, but I mean, he seems very good at getting back to his feet. And he's also like very good at winning scrambles in the front headlock. We haven't seen a lot of submissions in the front headlock because almost no one shoots on him. But yeah, he looks very strong in those positions. The challenger, Alexander the Great. He's incredibly versatile and an athletic, stocky striker. He can fight from both stances. Good jab, damaging leg kick. Can set up his attack with the jab. He goes into 1-2, jabbing off the hook, kicking off punches. Or he can also like close distance, anticipating counters, fading back, angling to land with the right hand or the left hook. He can become a little bit stationary in the pocket with his feet, but he fires quick, stays aware. He doesn't stay in the pocket more than he wants to. Or he's also good at smothering people into the clinch there. He's very physically strong in the clinch, can muscle people to the cage. Disengage and fire elbows or punches. Pretty decent ring craft, even though he can flirt with the walls of the cage a bit too much. He can pivot or turn people in the clinch to get back to the center. He's very adaptable, can change directions or weapons of choice depending on the matchup. He can sit back, he can pressure. He can fight like mostly with the lead side, as we saw against Chad Mendes. He was all about like the instant leg kick, the left hook. But lately we also seen like very right hand dominant performances. So he has a variety of weapons and like a lot of thoughtfulness go into them. He's collected under pressure, even when hurt or in bad sports. He's unusually good at decision making. Maybe the best decision maker in the sport. So the big question when it comes to this fight is how the size difference will affect the matchup. I mean, Islam would be an interesting puzzle for both, even at size parity, considering that Alexander hasn't faced a wrestler of this style and level during his career. As like similar stuff, he has faced an elite wrestler and athlete in Chad Mendes, but obviously very different from Island when it comes to dimensions and style of wrestling and striking. And we also have like a little bit of a parallel in Elkins, who's long and he's like a smaller grappler, but is like a lot smaller, not as athletic. The striking is a bit different. But yeah, I mean, going by previous fight, there are sketchy moments here and there that we can look and not be very optimistic about Volkanovski. If you want to know more about that, check out Miguel Class' article about the chances of Volkanovski when it comes to grappling against Islam. Very good article. I highly recommend that. But at the same time, Volkanovski has elevated his game time and time again since those fights that were a pretty long time ago now. Even at size parity, it's not a given that Volkanovski wins. I'm not saying that because, I mean, Islam is an elite wrestler grappler. He could take advantage of, like, Alexander that likes to clinch and smaller people. But all that said, not everything from Islam has been perfect either. Like, I do think he will need to rely on his size to hold down and wear down Volkanovski. I don't think he has like a quick victory on this one waiting for him. Or maybe like he needs to force Volkanovski into a very bad spot in the ground and take advantage and close a submission that with his strength will allow him to win early. All that said, I'm still picking Volkanovski, maybe a bit of a fanboy here. But I don't know, man. I'm picking Volkanovski to bring the tactics and the mindset to the table to pull off the upset. I just think him being too good in matches, get too better at this point of his career. And I think he has the good ideas. I don't know, man. This is not a very like analytical choice. I'm going by vibes a lot on this one, but I think Volkanovski is the best fighter in the world at this moment. I really want him to win. I think it's very hard. It's not very likely, but if I'm forced to choose, that's my pick. I'm picking Volkanovski by decision to become double champion. And there you have it, guys. That's my full preview. We're covering all the fights. I mean, we just covered all the fights. Remember to support the fight site on Patreon. You can join our Discord server. You can talk to me and other very smart people over there about fights and about everything. Thanks all of you for your support. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you on the next one.